In today's edition of the Red Sox Rundown, we are going to talk trades, more specifically, Jarren Duran trades. Because Bleacher Report put out an article, social media post, whatever you want to call it, with 8, count them, 8 Jarren Duran trade ideas. Whether you like him, whether you hate him, whether you don't want to trade him, whether you do, it's going to continue to be brought up until a decision is made on what happens with Duran this offseason. But before we get into any of that, I just want to hear from you. I want you to let me know. Would you, if you were Craig Breslow, would you trade Jarren Duran? Type T for trade if you would, type P for pass if you would not, and let's get into today's video. Welcome into this edition of the Red Sox Rundown by Chat Sports. I am your host, Jack Lotteray. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch today's video. Like I said in the cold open, 8 Bleacher Report trade ideas. That is what we are talking about in today's video, all surrounding Jarren Duran. Look, I understand that this is an uncomfortable conversation, a conversation that a lot of us don't want to have, but it is the world we live in. Trades are going to happen, and it seems like Jarren Duran is the odd man out. Here's what Jeff Passan had to say just this week on Jarren Duran. The Red Sox are valuing Duran more like a 7-win player of 2024 than his 4-win version in 2025. Either way, his addition can instantaneously make a team better. And Boston can hold out for a big return because the Red Sox don't have to deal him. At some point, though, the Red Sox will have to move on from Duran or Abreu. Keeping full-time quality players in less than full-time roles rarely works out well. An outfielder will be traded. They already traded Yostinson Garcia, but he really wasn't even in the equation. The equation is the 4 at the major league level: Cedon, Roman, Wilyer, and Jarren. One of those guys is going to get traded. It's not going to be Roman. I find it very hard to believe it's going to be Cedon, and I don't think it's going to be Wilyer either. I think it's going to be Jarren Duran. So we have to ask ourselves, what could a Jarren Duran trade look like? Because Passan is completely right. The Red Sox have the leverage here. Teams need outfielders. So you can wait them out. You don't need to rush a Jarren Duran trade. But we got 8 that we're going to talk about today. So let's just get into it. Let's start with the Seattle Mariners. This was the first team that Bleacher Report, had a trade idea for. It's an interesting one, I will not lie. Here's what Bleacher Report cooked up. And remember, all these trades are coming via Bleacher Report. They're not coming via me. So don't come after me in the comments. Go after Bleacher Report because they're the ones that made them. The Red Sox would receive Bryce Miller, right-handed pitcher from the Seattle Mariners, and Michael Arroyo, second base prospect for Jarren Duran. Let's get into the brass tacks here. I'm going to go quick because there's 8 trades, but I'm going to give you everything you need to know. Arroyo, let's start with him first, is the Mariners' number 6 prospect in their system. Like I already said, mainly a second baseman. He can play throughout the infield, but his skill set translates best to second base. He has a rough ETA of sometime in 2026, so if he were to get traded to the Red Sox, if the Red Sox desperately needed a second baseman, maybe he makes his big league debut at Fenway in sometime in 2026. He is a very, very highly regarded second baseman, both offensively and defensively. I didn't read anywhere that he's going to be like, this incredible, generational talent, but nonetheless, having, a highly regarded second baseman, one that can, play relatively good defense is something the Red Sox don't really have. But the big player in this trade would be Bryce Miller. He is one of the big pitchers for the Seattle Mariners. The Mariners have yet to show that they are willing to give away from their starting pitching depth. Bryce Miller is one of those players. Struggled a little bit in 2025. Did not play the entire season. Had some injury concerns that he was dealing with. He's a career 4.01 ERA, 364 walks in 402 innings with a FIP of 4.07. But I'm going to be honest with you guys. I think Bryce Miller is a dog. In his full season in 2024, he was phenomenal. So for that reason, I would do the trade. Because I think Bryce Miller could slot in as your number 2. And, I get everyone's going to say, oh, Jack, 2025. He didn't play the entire year in 2025. In 2024, his most innings, 180, he was a dog, sub-3 ERA. I would totally be on board bringing Bryce Miller in here. And then you bring in Arroyo, who could also potentially be, maybe a valuable second base piece in the future. Again, we're projecting out. But for Jarren Duran, getting two, relatively valuable pieces, including someone in a Bryce Miller that could absolutely be your number 2 starter, I would do it, personally. I would make that trade. But again, these are all trade ideas, so nothing's set in stone. We'll see what happens in the future. Let's move on to the Miami Marlins now. They are the next team that had a trade idea mocked to them, and it's another spicy one. Another spicy one indeed. Here is what Bleacher Report cooked up. Edward Cabrera, who we talked about a lot at the trade deadline, right-handed pitcher from the Marlins. Joe Mack, catching prospect, coming back to the Red Sox, and the Marlins get Jarren Duran. Let's talk about the brass tacks. Let's get into what they are talking about. Mack, number 4 prospect in the Marlins system, ETA of roughly 2025, but really 2026. Fantastic defensively. He is highly regarded as a really good defensive catcher, and he's got a good approach at the plate. I would fully be on board bringing him in. They did just make a trade for a catcher with the Pittsburgh Pirates, so that, maybe they wouldn't bring in more catching depth, but I don't think you can ever have too much catching depth in your minor league system, so that would be something to definitely consider. But, of course, the belle of the ball in this trade would be Edward Cabrera. Now, I'm not as bullish on Edward Cabrera as a lot of people are, but he's still good, though. Career 4.07 ERA. This past year, arguably one of the best years of his career, but he's got the raw stuff. His stuff is what the Red Sox are looking for. His stuff profiles exactly for the Craig Breslow system. And he is still a young player with club control that could be molded by the Red Sox. For that reason, I would also do this trade. I think you bring in another youngish, he's 27, so not like totally young, but youngish starting pitcher that you can mold in your image, mold in your system. And he is another one that a lot of people, and we were talking about at the deadline, would consider a number 2. So, and then I really like the prospect of bringing in Joe Mack as well. Getting a very interesting catching prospect. So, for that reason, I would make this trade. But you let me know. Would you do this trade? Edward Cabrera and Joe Mack come to the Red Sox. The Marlins get Jarren Duran. Y for yes if you would do this trade, N for no if you would not. I want to know your thoughts down below in the comments, so sound off. Let me know what you're thinking down below. Next up, the Los Angeles Dodgers. The rich get richer. There's rumors that they might be moving off of Teoscar Hernandez. They might be trading Teoscar Hernandez. So what if they come a call and say, hey, what would it take to get Jarren Duran? Here's what Bleacher Report had. Emmet Sheehan for Jarren Duran, 1-for-1 swap. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. We've only seen Sheehan limited. Only 2 seasons. Had UCL surgery in 2024. So he missed the entirety of the 2024 season. But in 2025, there was some signs of life from Emmet Sheehan. 73 and 3rd innings, 2.82 ERA. 89 Ks, only 22 walks, a FIP of 2.93. There is definitely underlying things here that are intriguing. He's young. He's got team control. He's got everything that you could potentially want from a starter. However, if I were Craig Breslow, I'm not sure, excuse me, what happened here? I'm not sure. Bear with me, I'm producing on my own tonight. I'm not sure I would do this trade. I'm not sure I would. And the reason why is because there is a lot of unknown. Obviously, at the UCL surgery, you always worry about re-aggravation. You always worry about injuries. And it is a tale of 2 seasons. His first season, rookie season, wasn't fantastic. This past season, it was pretty good. So you could argue that the recency bias, the most recent crop That's what you should care about. But we only got 2 seasons. So I'm not saying I wouldn't do the trade. I might need a little bit of convincing, but I'm not completely sold saying, yes, right away, got to do the trade. It has to happen. So I'm on the fence. I don't know. Maybe you convince me in the comments. Why should I make this trade if I am Craig Breslow? The Philadelphia Phillies. Let's talk about Philadelphia. This is an interesting one, folks. It is another 1-for-1 swap. The Red Sox get Andrew Painter, right-handed pitching prospect from the Philadelphia Phillies. And the Phillies get Jarren Duran. This is an interesting one, folks. And the reason why is because Painter is the number 1 prospect in the Philadelphia Phillies system. He's got an ETA of late 2025, 2026, so this upcoming season. And his stuff is elite. I mean, elite from top to bottom. Just for reference, the baseball scouting scale goes up to 80. 80 is the highest score you can get. 50 is considered league average. His fastball's rated at 70. Curveball's rated at 50, okay. Slider's rated at 60. His changeup's rated at 55. His control is rated at 65. He has some incredibly intriguing traits. And he's got the potential to be a certified, bona fide stud. Will he be on day 1? No. But nonetheless, I would do this trade instantly. Jarren Duran's very valuable. But if they're going to trade him, he's obviously not going to get a bunch of playing time in Boston. You could bring in a certified stud pitching prospect from the Philadelphia Phillies with elite level stuff. I would do it in a heartbeat. So for this one, I'm saying yes, 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 a million times yes. I would make this trade instantly. And if the Red Sox do make a trade, we'll make a video. We did for the Yostinson Garcia trade. Instantly after the trade came out. I was about to film this video you're watching right now. And then the trade came out and I'm like, nope, we got to stop. We got to make this video. It seems like after the Yostinson Garcia trade, more moves are on the way because they're stockpiling starting pitching depth. You're not going to want to miss it. The winter meetings are happening this upcoming week. So hit that subscribe button. We're getting very close to our next goal of 7,600 subscribers. Hit the sub button. Do not miss out. Join the Red Sox Rundown family today. I promise, if you give us 1 week, you will not regret it. All right, 4 more. Back half of today's show. I'm going to try to get through these a little bit quicker because we're already 13 minutes into the video. The Pittsburgh Pirates are the next trade up, and their idea is another interesting one. Braxton Ashcraft, right-handed pitcher, and Jared Triolo are headed to Boston for Jarren Duran. Like I said, I'm going to go through these a little bit quicker, so let's talk about Ashcraft. Made his debut in 2025, I believe is the case. Please forgive me if I am wrong on that assumption. I am not. He made his debut in 2025. He pitched pretty well. 69 2/3, a 2.71 ERA. FIP of, that's not his FIP, that's his WHIP, excuse me. 71 Ks, 24 walks. He pitched really well. He'd be a very interesting prospect to look at for the Red Sox, as early as next year. And then you got Jared Triolo. Kind of a jack of all trades, infield, depth piece, something that we know too well in Boston. Not a lot of power. His best season is by far his 2023 season. And then he did kind of take a nosedive in 2024 and 2025. 116 average, 127 average. OPS plus is 72, OPS plus of 86. Yeah, I don't love this package. I don't think this package is worth Jarren Duran. So for that reason, I would not do this trade. Ashcraft's an interesting prospect. Pitched well, but again, small sample size, don't have a lot to go off of. And Jared Triolo, I don't want. I just don't want. I think you've got much more valuable utility infielders already on your team. So I wouldn't give up Jarren Duran for that price. I don't think that that's nearly enough for Duran's services. So for that reason, I'm out. Let's talk about the Cincinnati Reds, another team that has been linked to the Red Sox. Talked about Hunter Green, talked about some other things. The Reds need a bat. The Reds need an outfielder. It does seem like the Reds would be a perfect trade candidate for Jarren Duran. Here is the trade idea from Bleacher Report. Nick Lodolo and Matt McLain are coming back to the Red Sox for Jarren Duran. This one, I'm a little bit more interested in. Not completely interested in, but at least a little bit more interested in. Nick Lodolo, fine. Not incredible. This past season, you could argue, was his best season. 156 and 2/3 innings, a 3.33 ERA, 156 Ks, 31 walks. Okay, respectable. And then you've got Matt McLain, who has only played 2 seasons, missed 2024, and much like who we talked about earlier in the video, Emmet Sheehan, it really is a tale of 2 seasons. His rookie season in 2023 was fantastic. But then this most recent season was not good. So for that reason, and, with not really loving Nick Lodolo either, I would also not do this trade. There's some upside there, but I don't think it's shown enough. Again, Matt McLain, 2 seasons. 1 season was really great. The other season, this past season, was really not that good. There's a lot of risk there that I just don't think is worth it. So for that reason, I'm out. I would be a little less likely to make that trade. But yeah, that's how I see that. That's how I feel about that. Yeah, you guys let me know. Would you make this trade? Let's do A for accept, D for decline, because I've already done Y for yes and N for no. But A for accept, D for decline. You let me know. Would you make this trade down below in the comments section? Let's move on to the New York Mets. The New York Mets. They could use an outfielder. And Bleacher Report mocked a trade idea for them as well. And this one is spicy. I'm not going to lie. It's a little spicy. Jonah Tong, right-handed pitching prospect. And Mark Vientos, infielder, third baseman, first baseman, whatever you want to call it, for Jarren Duran. This is an interesting one, to say the least. Jonah Tong has been brought up in a lot of different trade conversations. He's the number 4 prospect in the Mets system. The Mets are very high on him. He made his MLB debut this past season, but it's kind of hit and miss if you look at his stats. I talked to one of our resident Mets fans, Brett Alper, and said that he's very hit or miss. So definitely something to think about. And then Mark Vientos, who is a more proven commodity in the majors nowadays, is okay. Not a world beater. Not going to set the world on fire. But there's an interesting conundrum that comes from this trade. Like I said, I talked to our local Mets fan, Brett Alper. He said if they were to make that trade, they would be very confident that Pete Alonso is returning to New York because Mark Vientos is a part of the succession plan if Pete Alonso leaves. The thought is moving Mark Vientos to first, moving Brett Beatty to third. That is at least the planned succession plan if Pete Alonso leaves. If they were to trade Mark Vientos, that means that they're fairly confident that Pete Alonso will return to New York. So the question is, would you rather have Jonah Tong and Mark Vientos, but give away Jarren Duran and lose the opportunity to get Pete Alonso? That's the conundrum. And because of that, I don't think I would make this trade. I would rather hold on to Duran, flip him elsewhere, and bring in Pete Alonso. Then bringing in Jonah Tong and Mark Vientos. Because Pete Alonso is leaps and bounds better than Mark Vientos. Mark Vientos is fine. Pete Alonso's really good. And Jonah Tong, hit or miss, very high on by the Mets, but kind of unproven commodity still. So I'd rather bring in Pete Alonso than make this trade. Now, again, does that happen? Who knows? We don't know. These are all just speculation and thoughts. But nonetheless, something to think about in the future. Last but not least, the Kansas City Royals. This is one that's been talked about quite a bit, this trade idea in particular. And I would love it. Cole Ragans would be coming to the Boston Red Sox for Jarren Duran. You want to talk about certified stud and a number 2 starter. That is Cole Ragans. And the Ragans Duran rumors have been hot over the past week or so. It's no secret the Kansas City Royals need an outfielder. It's no secret the Red Sox have been in contact with the Royals about a potential Jarren Duran trade. However, can they find the right price? Because I think the Royals are overvaluing Ragans. I think the Red Sox might be overvaluing Duran just a little bit. So, because of that, I would do it instantly. I think I made that clear. Ragans is a certified number 2 in this rotation. He would be. And he's got a little bit of team control as well. However, I think the Royals most certainly say no to a 1-for-1. I do think the Red Sox, in this instance, would be rating Duran a little too high. I think the Red Sox would probably have to add something else if they wanted to bring Ragans in. But if it were the case where the Royals GM came up to me and said, hey, we'll do a 1-for-1 swap, Duran for Ragans, I would do it in an absolute heartbeat. Absolute heartbeat. That would be a dream scenario if you are a Red Sox fan, is Cole Ragans for Jarren Duran. Before I get on out of here, you let me know. We just went through eight Jarren Duran trade ideas. But you let me know. Name a player you want the Sox to trade for. Cole Ragans, I think, will be on a lot of people's lists. He's on the top of my list right now. But you let me know. It could be anybody. It could be Scooble. It could be Skeens. It could be anyone. Get out there. Let me know. Name a player you want the Sox to trade for. I want to hear your thoughts down below in the comments. Let me know right now. Thank you all so much for taking time to watch this video. It's a long one. It's going to be about 23 minutes. But we got in the weeds today. We went over 8 trade ideas. I gave you my thoughts on every single one of them. That's the type of analysis you're going to get here on the Red Sox Rundown, along with instant reaction and analysis to every single trade or signing the Red Sox make this offseason. We did one instantly after Yostinson Garcia got traded to the Pittsburgh Pirates. That's what's going to happen. The winter meetings are next week. You're not going to want to miss it. So hit that subscribe button right now. Thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, go Sox.